is buried in Olive Specter's garden? Will the mysterious, aging outcast leave her fortune to her niece Ophelia? Or, as rumored, to an unnamed heir?
Bitch, I hope the fuck you do!
Good evening.
Give me your fucking money!
Plot twist.
I'm sitting on a bad boy piece of information.
Hey hens! How we all diddly doing? How's everybody holding up? Welcome. Why the f*** did I sound like I was running a game show? I mean, if the shoe fades. Today we're going to be doing the entire history of Olive Specter. Not the entire history of the Specter family. Usually I do them in a chronological order, but to do that would mean going from Olive in The Sims 3 to Olive in The Sims 2 to back to Olive in The Sims 3. It will kind of ruin the story, and The Sims 2 has got the majority of the story, and then her versions in other games just kind of like are Easter eggs more than anything. So this is purely focusing on The Sims 2. But just because it's purely focusing on The Sims 2 does not mean that there's less content in it, because Jesus Christ, the research I had done for this video, I have enough to submit a uni assignment with it. Don't worry, so buckle up, bitch. This video is also going to be split into 4 parts. So let's start with part 1, introductions. So to start off with the founders, it's not actually the Specter family. Olive married into the Specter name. We actually start off with the Mwenda family, with Lorato and Paponi Mwenda. And honestly, these two seem like a normal, nice, happy couple, family oriented. And they end up having 2 daughters. I'm not sure who came first, whether it was the chicken or the egg, Olive or Willow, because Olive's memories kind of show that Willow was born first. That's contradicted later on in her memory, so I'm not sure. But basically, these two were born. And Lorato, the mom, taught Olive how to do everything. Walk, talk, potty. I apologise for my accent pronounces that one, potty. And everything in Olive's life seemed to be going okay, to be honest. She had a great time as a toddler, great time in childhood. All seemed to be going swimmingly. When she's a child is also when we find out our first bit of questionable information, shall we say. The Sims 2, honestly, it just fucking loves Leisure on a wild goose chase, and for what? Because when she was a child, she met Mystery Sim. That's all I've got for you. That's all The Sims gives you. And they're not referenced at all throughout the rest of Olive's life, and it's like, okay, so... So yeah, she had a happy childhood, and she grew into a happy teenager, but this is also when she gets her first experience with death, as in the actual concept of dying, not the Grim Reaper. Danielle Greaves died, and it doesn't really say her connection with the family. There's not much that's really known about her, but her grave is closer to Paponi and Lorato's grave than Olive's own sister Willow's grave is. So it does show that she was close with the family, but the reason for death is suspicious, because Danielle died of starvation, not accidental drowning or accidental electrocution or natural causes. Starvation. She was a pizza delivery girl. Like, I know that the Sims team love irony, so I mean, I'm just saying, I just think that this is more than a coinkydink, because if you're a pizza delivery girl and you're hungry, like, just have a little nibble, babe. Yes, this is the first suspicious death in her life, but I'm gonna get into that a little bit later on, because I don't think that this was to do with Olive, but I think it did influence her. Still, even with the death of a family friend, she went into adulthood with a positive life for the most part. Everything genuinely is on the up for Olive. She has a knowledge aspiration. She joins the slacker career. She cares about food, health, animals, the environment. But she does also care about money, crime, and the paranormal, which is not, it's not the most promising mix, really, is it? Her job is going well in the slacker career, and she also starts to fall for someone. So go on, Olive, you saucy little thing. And the person she ends up falling for is L.E. Demise, which, I mean, I'm not saying his parents expected him to die with a name like that, but I am saying I wouldn't be caught dead in the hospital calling my child that, and I'd want social services to be contacted if ever I did decide that. By his parents, I mean Max's as well. L is, honestly, he's a family-oriented sim who is a cancer. I do relate to him, I do. Just hopefully not the early demise thing, hey. He's a neat, active sim who tends to be on the serious side of things, and is also quite reserved. He seems, all in all, to be a catch. He seems like a nice match for Olive, and it's no wonder Olive liked him. And things only seem to be getting better from here, because she gets promoted in her career. She fully fell in love with Elle. They even ended up getting engaged. And even I'm fully invested in this love story at this point. Like, pack it up, Pride and Prejudice. There's a new special interest in town. But yeah, it's going great for her until it isn't. And the day that they're supposed to get married, Olive's up there in a white gown, and Elle leaves her at the altar, which leads us on to part 2. So, part 2. Death. Earl leaving Olive at the altar is actually a huge turning point in life, because before this, the only real negative memory that she had is of Danielle Greaves dying. And I may be reaching, but you know what? I put my hands up and reach a little bit more, because I do believe that this death influenced Olive a lot, and we're going to get into as to why. Reason 1. Starvation. It seems that Danielle Greaves was very close to Olive and her family, close enough to be buried right next to Olive's own parents, closer than Olive's own sister is, and the family are not poor. The family are quite well off, honestly. Later on, Olive did marry into money, but the house that they live in is not a cheap house in any way, shape or form. It's built with fucking brick and mortar, and if they're that close, you'd think they'd help a friend out in the time of need. I would anyway, but there might be Tories, you never know. Death by starvation in The Sims is usually achieved by locking someone in a room without a fridge and no access to food. I don't think that Danielle starved to death in her own home, which leads me to point 2. I'm a true crime Sims channel, me. Reason 2. The Specter family's actual home. There is nothing to indicate that Olive has ever lived anywhere other than her current house in Strangetown, meaning that her parents also lived there, because there's no memories to indicate anything different. We know that the parents and Olive lived in this house the time that Danielle Greaves died. The house in itself, interesting, to say the very least. The only other house like this in Strangetown is the Beaker household, and we know what fucked up shit goes on in the Beaker household. That has a lot of secrets, and I don't think that this design is by accident. I don't. Furthermore, the only windows in the Specter family household are in the main sitting area with the dining room table, and these are stained glass windows. This is the impression that this family does not want people to look in, and it doesn't want people to look out either, babe. And the layout of the house is a lot more confusing than it needs to be, specifically near the parents' bedroom. The rest of it kind of makes sense, but near the parents' bedroom, there's like these 2 hallways that just really shouldn't be there. Every single room in the house is decorated consistently with the same or very similar light fixtures throughout the entire house. So even in an empty hallway, it's still got the same light fixtures. Apart from in this one room next to the parents' bedroom in a weird part of the house that's not decorated at all, with nothing in it. The light fixture in this room would have took more of an effort to put a different light fixture in this room than to just keep the general light fixtures. So I present to you my wildest theory and stretch I have ever made, and I'm feeling good for stretching. Everybody should stretch a little once in a while. Olive's parents kidnapped Danielle, the pizza delivery girl, and starved her in this room. Why else would it have a different light fixture? I mean, would this hold up in court? Absolutely fucking not. But we're not in court, babe. But I think the Sims team, sometimes they do things and we reach with it, but sometimes they do things on purpose. And I think that Olive knew this, and this affected Olive. So when someone wronged her, death and starvation and like harming another Sim is the only thing that she knew. So it's no surprise when soon after Earl left her at the altar, Earl and his brother, timely demise, which obviously should like is meant to be read as timely demise. See what you did there, yeah? 10 points for Slytherin. Both died from execution and end up in the Specter family graveyard. Dun dun dun. And this is what makes it interesting. It's not just the brothers. Seth Sadie, who died of starvation, which we've seen with Danielle Greaves, that's a link. And Patrick Jones, who also died of electrocution, that's also a link. So both types of death we're already acquainted with so far in this family, and I'm saying Olive went on a fucking rampage. That's what I'm saying. But then after the deaths of Seth, Patrick, Earl and Tim, Olive's sister Willow gets engaged and then gets married, and another Sim ends up in the graveyard, Melissa Sims, who died from starvation. Quite bizarre that a number of Sims die after Olive's heartbreak, and then her heartbreak over her sister getting married, because that should be Olive. Olive should have already had that experience. Bit too convenient of time, and how bizarre. And the deaths are also way too similar, and they're all linked. Make it make sense, and I am making it make sense. Olive went on a fucking rampage. So a while goes by, and honestly, things start looking up for Olive again. Olive, she gets promoted twice, but then her parents unfortunately pass away from a fire and end up in the family graveyard. But their graves aren't that close to Olive's. Olive has a chair in the graveyard, right, where she sits and looks over the bodies. Her parents' graves are about as far away from that chair as you can possibly get. And they didn't die of natural causes. They died of a fire. Their kitchen, which is their family home, their kitchen has a fire alarm in it. And there's no memory of the parents moving out of the house or of a fire. Where did they die, Olive? Do you want to speak about it, hon? Where was the fire, Olive? Where was the fire? The deaths don't slow down either, honestly. She is a serial killer. Like, let's not lie. Let's call her as she is, a serial killer. After another 2 promotions, Jessica Abadi, she's got my name, she dies and rests in the family graveyard. And she also dies from starvation. But shortly after Jessica's death, Olive gets back on that dating scene. She meets rigor mortis and they share their first kiss together. I mean, they're asking for it at this point with these names, aren't they? Like, honestly, if you have a name that alludes to death, stay away from Olive. Honestly, just, it's not a good match, babe. Or if you just have a name, stay away from Olive. Maybe just stay away from Olive. Because after this, another sim, Benjamin Cho, dies from starvation, which apparently turns Olive into a love bombing phase, because after this, she fully falls in love with rigor, gets a promotion, even gets engaged, and finally gets married, this time without being left at the altar. Even after this, she gets a promotion, so people are dying and Olive's just reaping the benefits of it. But then rigor mortis dies. Can you guess how he died? No, she spiced it up a bit, actually. He died from a fire rather than starvation. Fire's faster, innit? Rigor dies of a fire and her own parents die of a fire. That's quite bizarre. Quite bizarre. Didn't stop Olive though. She soon got another promotion. She reached the top of the slacker career and even aged up to an elder well, despite all of the deaths, which for me, honestly, personally, if I'd ever experienced that much loss, I would not be growing up well to each their own. But I'm also not a fucking serial killer, Your Honour. Vicky Sims dies soon after this, again of starvation, and Vicky is also kind of thought to be the sibling of Melissa Sims, and they both died of the same thing. So I think that Vicky kind of came looking for Melissa, and then Olive was like, well, while you're here, fucking die. And then Oliver's back on her dating bullshit once again. She meets euthanasia. I don't like the term, you're asking for it. But, you know, with a name like euthanasia, like, she has a first kiss with him, and Lila Grunt dies shortly after this of electrocution. The cause of deaths are really repeating themselves. And I'm not going to go too deep into Lila Grunt, because the Grunts are another family in Strangetown, and they deserve their own entire history of. But it's worth noting that Olive does not get on with Lila's ex-husband, General Buzz. Maybe because she murdered his ex-wife, I don't know. Then Olive gets engaged to Euthanasia, and they get married. But then Euthanasia, along with his brother Luthanasia, I can't fucking cope with Max's, honestly, died. No one knows how Lou died, it doesn't state that, but Hugh died in a fire. Explain that, Olive. Which brings us to the end of part 2. Part 3. Nervous subject. The next memory after Euthanasia's death is Olive woohooing with the Grim Reaper. She shagged the Grim Reaper, but the Grim Reaper only appears when there's a death. The woohoo happened after a death. So where were you, Olive, apart from in that room where Lou and Hugh died? Olive Specter's in the room where it happened. And surprise, surprise, 2 more Sims, Nut and Luck. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm not too sure. L-U-C. They die, and then Olive gives birth to the Grim Reaper's baby, nervous subject. And then she meets Ichabod Specter, and that's where she gets the last name from, becomes best friends with him, which she hasn't had with a man for a long time. It tends to go very, very fast. And I get the feeling that she genuinely likes Ichabod. But then Olive gets nervous Specter taken away from her by the social services. And honestly, like, fucking good. I know that was a bad memory for her, but Jesus, we all like a bad boy, but not a fucking serial killer though, Chris. And I am going to interject here quickly, because the entire history of nervous subject needs a story in and of itself. I couldn't do it justice by saying it quickly here. But I do already have a video on him out, so you can go watch that one if you want more in-depth information. It's fucked up. I have more to add to the equation. Nervous is gay. I love that for him, honestly. And I have proof. So I was going through Nervous's memories, and he has a first kiss with Mystery Sim around the same time that Pascal Curious, the alien baby guy, also has a first kiss with Mystery Sim. Coinciding? I think absolutely big fat not. Pascal also does not get on with members of the Beaker family, which are who took Nervous Subject in when he was adopted. And they are also testing on Nervous Subject. So Sims and The Sims 2 have a gender preference as well, but it is hidden, but you can see it with cheats. And he doesn't like the women because he only likes his Pascal. So yeah, I recommend that if you play The Sims 2, please make Nervous and Pascal end up together and raise that alien baby together and give that little alien baby the best life. I am begging. They deserve it. They deserve it. Nervous Subject gets taken away, which leads us into part 4. Back to Olive and her murderous little self. The lass is ambitious and dedicated. Like, I will give her that. She goes hard or she goes home. After Nervous gets taken away, Olive and Ichabod get closer, and it actually seems to be like quite a normal, healthy, non-murderous relationship, because they eventually end up falling in love and getting married. Life seems to be on the up for Olive until disaster struck. My grandma tells me that I'm psychic and I have the gift, and until this moment I didn't quite believe it. I didn't really believe it, babe, but I did get the sense just through looking through all those memories that Ichabod did genuinely mean something to her and was more than just an outlet for like a murder, you know. Ichabod died. God bless you. of a natural death, which is kind of a first with Olive. And you can tell that he meant something huge to Olive. So I will let my grandma know that I am in fact psychic, because his grave is right next to her chair in the graveyard. Still not that cute though, because she is a massive fucking serial killer. Let's not romanticize it. And then honestly, it's just hit after hit after hit, because soon after, Olive's sister Willow and her husband Creon died by drowning, which is a bit suspicious if you ask me. So is this technically considered a hit to Olive? Because was she the one to remove the fucking pool lad? Did you know what I mean? I feel bad giving Olive any sympathy before I know all of the facts. Willow and her husband Creon did have a daughter. At this time, she was a child called Ophelia Nigmos, and she had to move in with Olive. Dun, dun, dun. But before this, Ophelia lived a happy life. She was raised equally by both her mum and dad, and she had great memories. She had a really good time. She had a really happy life. And as a teenager, she has a boyfriend called Johnny Smith. They didn't meet after Ophelia went to move with Olive. They met when Ophelia was a child before her parents died. And then once Ophelia moved in with Olive, grew up into a teenager, their relationship grew closer. But then after she moved in with Olive, Ophelia grew into a teenager badly, because death affects Ophelia in ways that it doesn't affect Olive. Because, you know, there's been so many deaths each and every time, and then Olive's been like, what a great year that was. Where Ophelia, you know, it affects her, so she grew up badly. But as a teenager, she did also get close to Johnny Smith. So this brings us to present day in The Sims 2. And when you load into the game, Olive is nearing the end of her life. I think she's got like, well, you don't know how many days elders have left. And Ophelia is 2 days away from becoming an adult. And the family description alludes to Olive giving her entire inheritance to an unnamed heir, which we know will be nervous subject now, rather than Ophelia. And if you play through the game, that's exactly what happens. Poor Ophelia, man. I really feel bad for her. So that's the end, and Olive's a feminist icon, honestly. I jest. Don't murder. Don't do murder. But Jesus, the depth of this story. There's still so much more to it. I haven't even covered it in this video because although they are included in other games, the timeline kind of deviates a little bit, and The Sims 2's story of Olive Specter is literally enough in and of itself. But yeah, they do appear in The Sims 3 Midnight Hollow with Olive and Nervous as a toddler before he gets taken away. They also appear in The Sims 3 Lunar Lakes. It's only like a descendant. They also appear in Into the Future, but again, it's just like a descendant. Wow. What a murderer. So yeah, that is everything I have for you today. I do have a video about Nervous Subject as well. I'm not too sure who I want my next entire history of to be on, but I can't explain to you how much I fucking love these videos. They are a bastard to make, they're a bastard to edit. I feel really good to be back on my bullshit, my entire history of bullshit. Thank you all very, very much for watching. Let me know what other families you want me to cover down below. I love you. It's not limited to any Sims game. I love you all the world, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, bitch.